The time now draws near when the account of the last book of those who suffered death in our old Book of Martyrs begins. We speak of those who gave their lives for the truth since the Great Reformation, or at least since the establishment of the worship of God in the year 1524, and from that time forward. In the meantime, it will be well for us to notice that the martyrs of whom we shall speak were of the profession of the Waldenses, even as were the preceding ones, of whom we've previously spoken. All the labor which we took upon ourselves from the middle of the 12th century tended to follow the line of these people. This has been our aim continually up to the present time, and in this, as we hope, we've not been unsuccessful. Yea, we trust that we've shown this to a certainty. In the meantime, the intelligent, to whom we gladly submit the matter, may judge with regard to it. The first work which is now before us is to unite the first martyrs with the last, and to follow up what we have written with what was written before. In order to give no offense to anyone, we intend to leave the old accounts unchanged, excepting a few discrepancies and typographical errors, as well as what we shall add of our own from the testimonies of the old writers, which shall be plainly distinguished. By following this method, we hope to accomplish our purpose successfully. Of the decree which by the Romanists was published in the Netherlands about the year 1521, against all who believed otherwise than the Roman Church, and what misery resulted therefrom. About A.D. 1521, at the time of Emperor Charles V, a decree was made and issued by those of the Roman Church on account of the Lutherans and the Zwinglians, against all those who were opposed to the Roman profession, and hence also against the Anabaptists, who were all threatened with cruel punishments of death, as appears from the following account. The account is as follows. Footnote. In the following a few words are changed, without altering the sense, however. End footnote. From it was made, A.D. 1521, says the writer, the first prohibition or decree concerning religion, and brought into the Netherlands without the consent of the states, etc., so that they, this and like decrees, were rather tolerated than confirmed by the states, the more so since they were greatly favored by the Pope and the clergy, as tending to promote obedience towards the mother, the Roman Church, and generally no complaint was heard from any of the common people against it, that is, against the first. By virtue of this decree, all who believed otherwise than the Roman Church, or who had such books in their possession, or harbored such heretics or people, and all those whom the magistrates were commanded to apprehend, were strictly sentenced to death, and not only those, but also all who in any wise were suspected of heresy, every Roman Catholic being required to denounce every suspected person who, upon the testimony of 2 witnesses, were, according to the instruction of the judges, sentenced to death, their property confiscated, and 1/3 of it given to the accusers and the witnesses, though said witnesses had but little to say, only so that they were known as good Catholics by their pastor or priest. If any one from fear took to flight, no one was allowed to intercede for him, or plead his innocence, neither the father for the child, nor brother for brother, but he was condemned on account of his flight, and his property confiscated. Though one did even desist from his so-called error, and suffered himself to be better instructed, as it were, by the pastor according to the Romish manner, he had nevertheless to die. No greater mercy was shown him than that he was not put to death by fire, but executed with the sword. The women were buried alive, and no judge could mitigate these decrees, unless he was willing to be regarded as a protector of the heretics, and be proceeded against as such. From this decree, the one first spoken of, made by imperial power and authority, others were produced and issued almost every year, and by virtue of these decrees, none might have in his possession, buy, give, carry, read, or communicate the doctrines, writings, or books of the Lutherans, Zwinglians, etc. He also makes mention of the Mennonites, or dispute about them, neither might they confer or dispute with anyone about the Holy Scriptures, or read the same to others, except Romish theologians, or doctors of divinity, or those who were properly licensed. No one was allowed knowingly to receive suspected persons called heretics into his house, to lodge them, to give them food, clothes, or money, but had to report them immediately, all on pain of death and confiscation of property. Note, A.D. 1522, Charles Stadius also declared his views at the time among the learned. He secretly held with the Anabaptists, says Leonard Krantz. Others, however, ascribe a different belief to him, which is not found with the Anabaptists, namely that he said that Christ, through his blood, had also redeemed the fallen angels. What happened to him, however, on account of his belief is not stated. A.D. 1524, Henry Zutphaniensis was honorably put to death for the gospel of Christ by Ditmarish peasants.